The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Ornato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
And was Mr. Engel in the room as Mr. Ornato told you this story?
He was.
Did Mr. Engel correct or disagree with any part of the story from Mr. Ornato?
Mr. Engel did not correct or disagree with any part of the story.
Did Mr. Engel or Mr. Ornato ever after that tell you that what Mr. Ornato had just said was untrue?
Neither Mr. Ornato nor Mr. Engel told me ever that it was untrue.
And despite this altercation, this physical altercation, during the ride back to the White House, President Trump still demanded to go to the Capitol.
This was another big revelation from today's testimony. After his speech, then President Trump returning to his limousine, which is called the Beast, and literally trying to wrestle the steering wheel away from his Secret Service detail to go to the Capitol after it was deemed too dangerous, according to Hutchinson. And what's notable, you mentioned, beyond the outrageous nature of a president wrestling with his own security detail, is also the rarity of such information sharing. You know, historically, Secret Service agents don't share any details pertaining to interactions with their protectees, because those kinds of disclosures can interfere with the agency's mission, you know, namely protecting the president, the White House, the first family, top staff. That job requires a relationship built on a lot of trust. So the prospect of sharing some of those intimate details, typically creates concerns within the agency. Today's testimony was a very unique peeling back of that curtain.
That source close to the Secret Service tells me that both the lead agent, Bobby Engel, and the driver of that presidential limousine, the SUV, are prepared to testify under oath that neither man was assaulted and that Mr. Trump never lunged for the steering wheel.
Inside the Beast, the car, the limo, saying he wanted to go up to Capitol Hill. And they said, you have to go back to the White House. And according to her testimony, he says, I'm the effing president, take me there, and then goes to grab at him. Listen, this testimony is, first of all, stunning, because we haven't heard this. Two, it's compelling because of her proximity to power. All of these people directly having conversations with her. I think, as we've seen before, it's methodical. Mm-hmm. We always point out the caveat. There's not a minority here that's pushing back or questioning the other way. But it leads up to January 6th, the concern that it might, quote, get real bad in the days before, the concern that the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers were going to be there, the concern that there would be weapons on the mall, and then radio transmission that they saw weapons, AR-15s and others. And then the testimony that the president was really concerned about the crowd, that they weren't allowed in through the magnetometer. He wanted the crowd to be bigger, more robust. And she quotes him as saying, and she was there in that back room behind the stage, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here. Let the people in. Take the effing mags away. Listen, all of this is firsthand. So it's from her listening to it. That's why it's so compelling, and that's perhaps why we have this hearing that popped out of nowhere.
A source close to the Secret Service just told me to expect that the Secret Service will push back against any allegation of an assault against an agent or President Trump reaching for the steering wheel.
Never mind.
Around the time that I understand the AP article went live, I remember hearing noise coming from down the hallway, so I poked my head out of the office, and I saw the valet walking towards our office. He had said, get the chief down to the dining room, the president wants him. So Mark went down to the dining room and came back to the office a few minutes later. After Mark had returned, I left the office and went down to the dining room, and I noticed that the door was propped open and the valet was inside the dining room changing the tablecloth off of the dining room table. He motioned for me to come in and then pointed towards the front of the room near the fireplace mantle and the TV, where I first noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor. The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry at the Attorney General's AP interview and had thrown his lunch against the wall, which was causing them to have to clean up. So I grabbed a towel and started wiping the ketchup off of the wall to help the valet out. And he said something to the effect of, he's really ticked off about this. I would stay clear of him for right now. He's really, really ticked off about this right now.
Never